So my name is Noah Longhurst. I am a drummer, a drum teacher, and a youth worker. Day to day, generally, I create lesson plans for my lessons that I teach. Some days I'll have rehearsals that I have to go to when I'm playing for like particular artists, if we're rehearsing for shows or like for recording, or I'll have rehearsals with my own band, try and fit some practice in so that I'm on top of my game. Twice a week I do youth work. So I go into Brighton Youth Centre and help out there. And some days of the week I'll have gigs and shows, which is the most important bit about being a drummer. So some of the skills that I use, obviously drumming is a big one. Time management, I think, is quite important because I do so many different things. It's kind of like, how do I split that up in the day? Personable skills I use quite a lot. So like communication, teamwork, dedication, leadership. If you don't have a positive mindset, then you will crumble quite quickly. A person that would suit the role as a musician would be someone that is driven, creative, not afraid of having late nights, for sure. You can take criticism. Say you're in a session and someone's saying, you're not doing this right. You've got to be able to just be like, cool, and change it. Flexibility is a big one, because if I'm teaching one day, but actually a gig comes up, I've got to then try and be flexible to try and rearrange the lesson, and also not being like afraid to take setbacks, because I've had a few setbacks recently and I've just driven through it, and now I'm kind of like back on top form. So in terms of being like a youth worker, the sort of person that would suit that job would be someone that's sympathetic, excited to be there, someone that's able to listen. You've got to be very approachable, I think, as well. So the best bits about the job are playing to lots of people at gigs, being creative all the time, going on tour is very fun. Well, I just love playing the drums, so that's cool, getting to do what I love. And then some of the more challenging parts would be there's quite a lot of downtime sometimes, so you've got to fill your time with positive stuff, which is why I do teaching. The best thing about teaching is when you're teaching a child or like a young adult, what you're teaching suddenly clicks, and then they just have an epiphany moment and they've got a really big smile on their face. A challenging part of that would be when kids don't really want to concentrate. One of the best bits about youth work would be just helping people and being there if someone wants to talk to you about troubles they're facing. One of the challenging bits about youth work is it can be quite draining sometimes, and being able to give people the right answers and answering questions sometimes that are a little bit difficult. I wouldn't say you need a degree, but it could help. But I do have a degree in drums, and I kind of studied it for a long time. And then as a teacher, sometimes you need a degree if you want to work in schools. But as part of my drumming degree, I did a teaching module. But in creative jobs, sometimes you get employed because of the person you are and the skills you can do, rather than having a fancy degree, you know. For youth work, a lot of youth workers do have like a degree, but I actually don't have any qualifications in youth work. I just got into it because I was a volunteer, and then they said to me, do you actually want a paid job now as a youth worker? I was like, yeah, of course, because I really enjoyed it. One of the main barriers I had to overcome was when I was coming out of school into college and then uni, because I'm quite severely dyslexic and dyscalculate. One of the main challenges I had to face was I didn't get a maths GCSE when I left school, and I couldn't get into the college to play drums, so I had to do maths alongside that, and I just kept failing it. So I just kept doing it and eventually got it, which is really good. On the dyslexia thing, like sometimes if I'm in a session, sometimes it can be quite hard to process a lot of information for me. So it's just finding ways to deal with that, like writing stuff down and making notes. As a musician, you kind of have to do lots for free. But there comes a time where you have to be like, I've got to pay for my car insurance, I've got to pay for petrol, I've got to pay for food. So you kind of have to be like, actually, I'm not going to do that session for free, I'm going to do this. So teaching, you can earn quite a bit, I guess. So when I teach privately, I charge £30 an hour. I'm looking to this year increase my prices because I've been doing it a while. So like teaching and youth work and drumming. So it's really important you do lots of different things to kind of, you know, I just sprinkle in loads of different things. Yeah, when I was a teenager, I've always wanted to be a drummer, basically. However, there were times where I was like, maybe I should get a proper job. And I looked into things like being a tree surgeon. At one point, I wanted to be a chef because I was working in kitchens and I really liked it. And I actually realized that I prefer cooking as a hobby. So a tip for any aspiring musicians, don't give up, basically. And yeah, chase your dreams, really. And then for a youth worker, if you really want to be a youth worker or a teacher, then I would look into ways you can do that. So like look into university courses to be a teacher or a youth worker, and then get qualified. If you have loads of people telling you that you can't do that, you definitely can, for sure. Have a positive mindset as well.